Welcome to the Uncanny Lens, where we are exploring self-concept, reflections in pop culture and media. I'm your host, Jinx.
And I'm Minx.
And we're excited because this is our first episode, and we can't wait to talk about all of the amazing things we are ready to talk about around self-concept and self-reflection and how all of that plays out in the storytelling that we experience in our day-to-day life.
Yeah, couldn't have said it better myself.
And that's like everything from like the TV shows we watch, the movies we watch, books we read, podcasts we listen to, music we listen to, even the social media feeds that we scroll through.
Yeah, the narratives that people try to tell of their lives through social media. Not necessarily all real, but yeah, it's a story.
It's all storytelling. And we're all learning about each other and ourselves through these stories that we tell. And so I think that's why it's important to not brush off pop culture or media as something that's mindless or for the masses or whatever. I mean, yeah, it is for the masses. Storytelling is for the masses. We've been doing it for all of millennia.
How is that a good thing? It's a good thing to influence the masses. And how can we do that in a better way that's better for ourselves and better for the planet? Right?
Better for our like day-to-day life, right? And how it feels to be inside of our own body and to just be with ourselves. I noticed,
and relate to others.
Well, absolutely. And that's what I think is so important about having this opportunity to look at characters, right? Because we get to be removed from it a little bit. That's not our parents or a friend or a coworker or someone that we know in real life. It's not even a real person if unless we're watching like reality TV or a documentary, I guess, we're really interacting with a character to some degree, because even musicians, that's a persona, for the most part. So we're going to constantly be having these interactions with the media that we're exposing ourselves to. So how is that being internalized in us, and how are we reflecting on it later?
Yeah, how do we use it as an opportunity to grow and change our own behaviors and patterns that might not be benefiting us, right? And how do we look at these characters and archetypes and self-concepts in a way that shows us how we have opportunities to grow?
Right. And I think that really is the difference. I mean, so in this instance, we're actually saying it's not necessarily the media that's mindless, although I think there can be instances of that. I think there is some like junk food type of entertainment or, things out there. However, so it's not that whatever has been produced is mindless. Maybe it's the person that's watching it, right? The observer. If they're consuming this content in a way that's not conscious, then yes, it is mindless TV. It is mindless whatever. It is mindless consumption. And so if we can just bring awareness, it doesn't even have to be work. See, that's the thing that I think makes this fun, is it doesn't have to feel like work where you're sitting down with a journal. I mean, yes, you can do all of that, but it doesn't have to be this like thing that feels so heavy all the time. Like healing and self-reflection and self-discovery and self-growth can also be really fun. Yeah. And we can look to the things that we enjoy in life. We don't always have to be participating in this, type of embodiment of of our ideal selves, of healing, of our healed selves through this idea that it has to be a struggle and it has to be really somber and it has to be, there has to be some sort of like sacredness around it that means that it can't be joyful. And I challenge that completely, because I actually think it's opposite. I actually think we can get more out of it. I think it's even more sacred if it's coming from a place of joy
and a place of play.
Yes.
That's why they're called plays or,
Oh my
stories.
gosh.
Yeah, right? We can play with it. Let's play with it.
Mhm.
Let's
That's
play
actually
with
so
our healing
beautiful.
journey. Hmm.
Yeah, I love the way that you said that. I think it's probably a good idea to talk about the mersion, the purpose and mission. That's the mersion, the future reference.
Good job.
Thanks. Of this podcast, which I don't know. I feel like maybe we kind of already did. And, in doing that, I think it's pretty obvious our enthusiasm for the topic because I feel personally that the idea of self-concept has completely changed my life. I understood self-confidence and self-esteem, but there was always something that felt like it was missing for me about why I didn't quite like understand myself or like what the fuck I was doing in the world or where I felt like I was falling short. And then I was watching a YouTube video and it was a life coach and she was talking about self-concept and the way that she described it clicked for me in a way that the way that nothing else has. I can look back now and see that there have been other times when I may have been exposed to this sort of idea, but it just didn't click for me. But in this instance, it did. And I'm so grateful because it's been so life-changing for me because I started looking for more information about this idea of self-concept and how I could, like, what my self-concept was, trying to figure that out, and then trying to figure out how I could adjust it to
Do you
be.
remember who it was and what they said in that
I
YouTube?
do remember who it was. It was Kim Velez. I don't exactly remember what she said, but yeah, it was one of those things that I was just like, oh my gosh, like I get it. Like I get it now. And so now how can I change this? How can I like adjust this? And then that's when I started looking into doing affirmations and really trying to like reprogram. I started looking into somatic therapies and learning about our limbic system and the nervous system and how we can rewire our programming. And one of the things that Kim was actually sharing about in some of her other videos was that she came from a background where I believe she was in foster care. And so it wasn't like I was listening to somebody who hadn't experienced adversity um, in the same way that I understand it. You know what I mean? In like having a broken family or dysfunctional family or any of those types of terms. And so it maybe that's the other reason why. She also is like heavily tattooed and she says fuck and things like that. And so I think I was a little bit more receptive to it than, I mean, as much as I love some of the elders who have brought us so much wisdom, like Louise Hay and Wayne Dyer and Stuart Wilde. And oh my gosh, there are just so many I could go off and start. It just hits a little different for me, I guess, when the person looks a little bit like me and talks a little bit like me, right? And so that's why representation matters because we
Yeah, and
understand things differently then.
right, right. And there are people that we see in these shows um, that we can relate to and we see ourselves in them. And it can have a really powerful influence on how we behave and how we choose to respond to adversity in situations.
Well,
And
and
for
that's
kids, like how do kids figure out, how to behave with other kids and around other people is they lead by example. They see somebody do something and then they copy that behavior. So as humans, that's what we do.
okay. And that brings me to a couple of really good points. One, the reason that we're calling this the uncanny lens, which I'm going to put a pin in and come back to in a second, but because it ties into this other idea here that I don't know what it was like for you growing up at the time that we did. We were sort of like, we're young Gen Xers, millennials, we're right on that edge of Gen X and millennials. And I was like a latchkey kid. So I learned a lot about how people were supposed to interact with each other through television, like TGI Fridays or whatever.
Sabrina the Teenage Witch and
Oh, I
like
don't remember. I don't
Boy
remember
Meets
Sabrina
World.
was on. But yeah, it was like, oh, what were the shows that were on? Like Step by Step, Family Matters, like those types of shows.
Okay, I'm a little bit younger, and so
Okay.
mine were like Sabrina the Teenage Witch and Boy Meets World, and that kind of stuff. But yeah,
I learned a lot from like Carlton and like let's just say that the world did not work the way that I thought it did based on like the way that these TV shows led me to understand the world that works that way, right? But the thing that holds true in every single thing that I can go back through and think about, there are very few examples that I can find where this isn't true, if at all. That there is this common thread in all of the storytelling, and that is about the character's self-concept and how that plays out in their life with their behaviors and like how life treats them or the universe treats them or whatever. And so I think that what's fun about the name of this podcast being Uncanny Lens is we get to explore all of that, how it affects us in the bigger part of the world. And it still is like a very personal thing for us because we're each going to interpret a character differently, even if we're watching it, the same character at the same time and same show, whatever. We're going to interpret it differently based on our own self-concept, our own background and experiences. And so as I rebranded the company Uncanny Occasions, I've come to have that term really refer to those moments in life that are just full of synchronicity, right? Where something happens and you feel that zing and you're just like, holy shit, like I am so aligned right now. I am so like embodied with my ideal self. I know I'm on the right path to whatever my fully realized version of me is. And it's those occasions that are a little bit uncanny where we know that we are really living our most fulfilling life. We're on the right track. And I think that we can learn more about that through the media that we consume, and that we can influence our future trajectory by, I don't know if I want to use the word analyzing, but reflecting on these types of things.
can I change a word that you just said? Because we say consume media, and that makes me think of it as like unhealthy and very like junk foody. I don't know. I feel like we have an opportunity here to say, okay, it's not consuming, it can be nourishing. We can actually have nourishing media experiences if we do it in the right way.
So I agree and challenge that as well, because I don't think the word consume is inherently negative. I think that we have, as a society, put a lot of pressure on that. Because then it starts relating to everything, right? Like our food. Like there's so much loaded language around that word, around food. And that in and of itself, I think makes it even feel like consuming food could be bad, which is like absolutely
Right.
narrative behind it. That's like absolutely like don't consume too much. Like it's gross. We have there's this very negative connotation with it. I 100% agree.
Yeah.
I've used
Okay,
the
so
word like exposed.
consume to me feels like you're not enjoying it, you're just consuming it, and it's like you're not thinking about it. It just feels like, okay, this is something that I need to do or I want to do, or it's like it doesn't have as much joy or purpose in it as like something that's more nourishing, something that's more fun, like that's what I feel like we should be doing here is we're enjoying media in a way that feels more nourishing than it does just like this mindless consumption. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. So I'm trying to think of like, how would we describe that type of a thing like in real life, right? So it'd be like going to like a barbecue, like a cookout or a picnic or a feast or a festival or like, you know what I mean? Like, what are some other words that?
Yeah, there's, that evokes like the, you know,
Celebration.
this idea, celebration and pleasure and joy, and this is something that can be done with other people. You don't have to be alone. It can be like something that doesn't just feed you, but it feeds relationships and
what would that
the
be
culture
called?
In general.
If we like, it'd almost be like a potluck.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's almost like a potluck because I don't know though, but how do we like, because it's like community, it's like
sexier.
all these things. Yes. Is there just
aren't very sexy?
No, that's what I was like. It sounds very Midwest. I mean, not that the Midwest isn't
with
sexy.
Like Jello salad.
Right. It's just, I'm just thinking back to many family reunions in the 80s and 90s right now, and so that's exactly what I'm thinking of.
In Ohio. Mine were in Ohio.
It makes me think of this event that I went to in New York in like 2014 called The Feast. And it was like a feast of ideas, and like it's like that eat, drink, be merry sort of idea, right? Instead of
I wonder if there's a better word in a different language for what we're trying to describe.
Yeah,
and I'm going to put that out to some of my friends that are in Europe and South America.
Oh, convivial consumption.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah, and it's a little an alliteration.
Here's the conclusion that we came to for now.
Yeah.
And it's going to be to call it convivial consumption until we can see if there's a better word or So I don't know that we have discussed and defined self-concept yet.
Yeah, go for it.
Let's see. Let's see what the dictionary definition is.
For self-concept?
Yeah, it says self-concept is the perception that we have of ourselves. Who am I? I don't know. That didn't get me anywhere. I mean, it really didn't. That question got me nowhere. What do you mean, who am I? It's such a big question.
So, and like, what's the meaning of life? Like, these are not simple things.
Comes down, I think, to me more of like this, like, what am I embodying, right? In this particular version of myself. And some of that can be like long-term, like I may have certain self-concepts about myself that have lasted my whole life because it's some early programming I got from my caregivers. Like one part of my self-concept is that my sister and I have always just been able, we go to like concerts together and we always end up hanging out with the band. Somehow, some way, we end up like running into them somewhere, like outside the like venue. I remember we ran into Jeff Ament at Red Rocks. He was just like riding a bicycle around. We were just like, oh my God. And so it's like, and it's just always happens to us everywhere we go. And it's actually this concept that I have of myself at this point in life that actually I run into celebrities a lot. And I have really good interactions with them. It's not just like, oh, hey, can I take a picture? It's nice to meet you. It's like, sometimes we're like playing skee ball or smoking a bowl, or, you know what I mean? Like there's something a little more to it and you're connecting in a little bit of a deeper level. And so that's just part of my self-concept. It's a natural assumption that I have about myself. And so I don't really need to put a lot of effort into like manifesting those types of experiences because I already believe it's going to happen for me.
Yeah.
On the flip side of that, this just as an example, I also have had a self-concept that I am unlovable. And this has been one that's longer term that I have been actively working on since I became aware of this type of work. I've been actively putting an effort to adjust this thought and idea. So one of my favorite poems, it still is one of my favorite poems, is called The Room by Vladimir Nabokov. And I don't know if I'm saying that right. Am I saying it right? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And it's such a depressing poem. So
It's
beautiful.
Russia for you.
Oh my God. It's so Russian. It's so beautiful though. It is so fucking beautiful. The room a dying poet took at nightfall in a dead hotel, right? And it just goes into this beautiful, and this poet finds these words above the bed that say, alone, unknown, unloved, I die. And the first time I read that poem, I was very young and I was living in a very violent and abusive home. And I just heavily, heavily resonated with that line. Like, that is why it became my favorite poem. And I can recite lines from it off the top of my head, if not the whole poem off the top of my head. I am not okay with the fact that that became a part of my self concept, though, because it is something that infiltrates my thought process, my behaviors, decisions that I make, and everything in my life, that I am afraid that I am this person who is alone, unknown, and unloved. And just another example of why it is important to be paying attention to the media and things that we're exposing ourselves to. I was so young and I did not even have like the emotional capacity to process why that was resonating with me. And I didn't have anybody in my life to help me process that. And that's really essentially what I hope that this podcast and the other things that we're going to be doing within the business will be able to provide for people, a tool and a resource to help them along the same type of, exploration of ourselves, really, especially through trauma. Because I think when we can look at it through this uncanny lens, it can be more fun.
Agreed. Yeah, healing can be fun. Doesn't have to be work.
Well, but I'm curious, what does self-concept mean to you? Because you've approached it from a different angle. You haven't been involved in the same types of like work and coaching and stuff. So I'm curious what your like.
Yeah, my language around it is. I think that like the archetypal work that I've done is pretty similar to what you're talking about. How we can explore different sides of ourselves through archetypes. And I think that that's really interesting how we're looking at it in terms of the media. Actors get this opportunity to explore so many different sides of themselves by portraying different characters, right? And really like getting into the shoes of those characters.
They embody that energy.
Exactly.
I mean, it's terrifying to me. What I know about manifestation, sometimes it is terrifying for me to think about what type of energy some of these, especially super like method actors. Like, I'm just like, whoo, like that is rough. Like I read a little bit about Kieran, what's his name? Kieran Culkin.
Macaulay's
from
brother.
Succession.
Succession.
Being in these spaces that he had to get himself into to play the character of Roman. They were on this beautiful location somewhere. And he was like, I couldn't even fucking enjoy it because I had to be in this shitty person's fucking mindset. I couldn't even enjoy because he was, going through, I don't want to give any spoilers, but he was going through whatever he was going through. And so he was like, this character is going through this thing, so I can't even enjoy it like as Kieran, like the person, not the character. And that's intense. Like that's intense. Like that's so much more like we need to do like a whole course or something to help performers be able to like disengage from those types of embodiments when they're ready to, because like wow, I mean some of this stuff that performers,
oh my god, seriously. So for me, this archetypal exploration is key to your self-concept and self-discovery, right? So asking yourself, who am I, doesn't have to be a one answer thing. There is, it's like that's the center of the spider web. And then there's like all these pieces that encompass that, right? That's the question, but then it kind of is like just expansive. Like I am not just one thing, I am everything. And I have, what I just thought of is obviously everybody's seen this movie at this point, but Everything Everywhere All at Once. She can unlock all of these selves by like, you know, tuning into this whatever chip that she has kind of like connecting her to her infinite possibilities. But, you know, we have every ability within us.
Yeah.
It's just unlocking that, right? How do we unlock our superpowers?
Right. Yeah,
Yeah.
and that movie we'll do a whole episode about. It's on my
Oh my
list.
God. It is one of my favorite movies of all time.
Uh,
Like,
I just
love
sat
it.
crying through that movie because I was about a year and a half into my like journey of learning about self-concept and the law of assumption. And so I have been learning about the law of attraction since like 2006 and was introduced to Louise Hay at that time. But to be introduced to the law of assumption and Neville Goddard and his teaching was also a really big shift for me. And so when I saw that movie, I was just like, fucking
Whoa.
mind completely opened. Like, I was like,
Yeah.
this is exactly what I was understanding from the teachings. That I was obviously there was a little bit of a sci-fi element to all of that, which isn't in some of this other stuff, but like the teachings, that's I guess would be considered more metaphysical, I guess is the term that would be used. But yeah, just exactly what you're saying, just this, how do these things play into what we're manifesting in our lives?
Yeah.
And
Yeah. How do we unlock our infinite potential within ourselves, right? And how can we use studying other characters to do so, right? How can we use what we see and what we internalize from the media, and how can we explore how that can be beneficial to us? How can that feed us? How can we have a convivial consumption experience?
as yes, well, and I really just love what you said about it being nourishing, because here's the other thing, and here's something that I want to make clear. I'm not here to judge any content. I mean, I take that back. I might sound judgy when we talk about what I kind of consider to be it's so weird that so much food like language is coming out. I want to say like
Yeah.
empty calories, right?
Yeah.
Like so like okay, and I guess I would mostly consider that to be shows. I don't even watch these. I've watched clips of them, but like Real Housewives types of shows, right? So that is what I would consider to be sort of something that is too activating for my nervous system personally to be able to get any growth from it. That's
Yeah.
not to say that somebody else doesn't. Somebody else may
Yes.
be able to get some growth out of that. I personally do not. I just get stressed out watching that. And it's okay to also feel stress when we're experiencing our storytelling, right? Not every story has to feel good. What I'm saying though is I feel like to me it's unnecessary stress because it's just like weird, gross drama that I saw in my like 20s and 30s play out between like friendships or relationships
Yes.
and things like that. That's just unhealthy, dysfunctional behaviors and patterns. And while I guess it could be beneficial to explore those things, I personally would rather be focused on the things that make me feel good than
Yeah, I think that's what we can expect from this. What the listeners can expect is that we're kind of just doing this through our own lenses, which, you know, these are shows and these are movies and these are experiences that have helped us explore our self concepts in a different way. And we're talking about that from our perspectives. And, you know, maybe this makes you think of some other show or some other character that has really influenced you. And, you know, we want to evoke that. We want to, you know, help you think about these things on your own, from your own lens, from your own perspective. But this is just, we're just sharing what what we've got, you know, what's in our bag.
Right. It's sort of just meant to be like a starting off point for a conversation rather than like any sort of advice or anything like that. Like
And we're not reviewing shows. We're not like, you know, trying to put a number of stars on things. You know, we understand that. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a really good point and I'm also not here to like break down the, you know, all the Easter eggs that were in the, you know, show or how it connects to this other property or whatever. There are plenty of other people out there doing podcasts about that and people who are passionate about those things. This is what we're passionate about. And I know for a fact that there are other people out there. I know there are cosplayers out there. There are performers out there. There are writers. There are other people who want to produce film and podcasts, and all of these people out there who are asking these same questions about themselves, their self-concept, and how they can not only improve their own story, right, in real life, but how can they improve their characters and their characters' stories and the experiences that their characters are living. Because those characters do come to life as soon as we start to interact with them and engage with them. As soon as those characters are put out into the public, they start to come to life. They have a life of their own. So I guess, I mean, to recap.
Yeah, go for it.
Well, you go for it this time. I feel like I've been talking so much. So you recap what I said then.
Oh my God. Okay. Let's see if I can do more than one thing. Of course I can. I'm a mom. Multitasking is like a part of my superpower.
It's everything everywhere all up in this shit.
Yeah, right. So we are the Uncanny Lens. We're doing a podcast for you guys about self-concept through media and pop culture. And basically, we're talking about how we can change consumption and make it a more joyful and healing experience. We're going to call it convivial consumption for right now. We are going to be looking at different TV shows, movies, pieces of pop culture, and we're going to be examining the characters and the archetypes and the self-concepts that we see and how those impact us and help us unlock our infinite potential. You know, I think that that's possible. I think that we can be these like super people. We have so much potential inside of us, and there's just a lot of healing and a lot of what's the right word? A lot of healing that needs to be that needs to take place. A lot of just change of mindset that needs to happen for us to realize our full potential. And I think that we can do that through looking at other characters. And I think we can do that by examining stories and plays and playing with it. Anything that you want to add?
No, I mean, I am so excited to talk about this that I feel like I'm going to have so much to say over the course of this podcast. And as we start discussing all of this, that I think this is a good place to sort of come to an end for today. And just like, I just want to express gratitude though, for everybody tuning in and listening to us and wanting to look inside of themselves, because it's, in my experience, it's not always easy to do, and it can be painful, and it can be the type of thing where you want to be like, fuck that. Like this, wait a minute, this is your sales pitch for healing? Like, no thanks. No thanks. No. I mean, especially when I'm like blubbering as I'm like doing parts work or trying to work through something, you know, yeah, it's not really the best like marketing for healing and growth all the time. But I think that being able to present it in this fun way where we're looking at ourselves through the storytelling that we like to interact with and the characters that we love, like these are beloved characters. There are whole fandoms around TV shows, and there's all sorts of stuff. And all of this is going to come into our business and what we're doing here. But like, I'm just so excited. I just can't ever stop talking about this. So I have a list here. I'm just going to read a couple of things, like some of the movies and things that we're going to talk about. I mean, I want to go back and talk about some older ones, like the movie Drop Gorgeous. Do you know that movie? Oh my God.
Of course.
So that movie, Home Alone.
Yeah.
What is another one? You've Got Mail. Back to the Future, like those are some ones that I think would be really fun. TV shows, I would love to do like a whole episode on the Fonz from Happy Days. And I know I'm talking about like older stuff, but there's so many like
Golden Girls. We've already talked about Golden Girls.
I can't wait. We're gonna have to do an episode on the new Barbie movie that's coming out, because from what I can tell, she like becomes self-aware. Like that's what the whole movie's about. And that reminds me of the movie Free Guy, you know? And so, I mean, even just
we got to do the Little Mermaid. We got to do the new and old, because you're a mermaid. So
absolutely. Absolutely. Yes. In case you don't know, I have been a professional mermaid since 2018. Let's see what else. Oh, public figures. I would really like to even, because it's not just media, it's pop culture, right? Really public figure I think would be interesting to look into would be Marilyn Monroe. Anyway, these are just like so many things that we have to look forward to. There are books. There's this really great book called 6 Month, 3 Days that I would love to explore. Another book called The Two Lives of Lydia Bird. Oh, geez, there's just so many things that we can get into. So, hey, as our audience, if there is a TV show, a book, a play, an opera, a social media,
a ballet.
If there's anything that you would like us to explore through our uncanny lens of self-concept reflections in pop culture and media, definitely let us know. Make sure to subscribe, review, like, share the podcast with anyone else who you think may find value in the things that we're talking about. Or, you know, all of your friends who are like really into consuming convivial, can I say that word convivially? I can't.
Convivially
consuming, and want to go on this self-concept exploration to help themselves live their most fulfilled and embodied life. I mean,
yeah, it's a journey. We're gonna just explore it together.
Yeah,
and I, for one, am really excited.
I'm so excited. I'm so excited to have not only you to talk to this stuff about and to just like be able to go back and forth about it, but also to be sharing these things with our audience. I can't wait to start hearing about how these things we bring up influence them in their lives. And I know we also have like a mindful journaling component that we're working into this. So there's all sorts of good things on the horizon that we can't wait to share with all of you. We really hope that you'll follow us on our social. You can follow Uncanny Occasions on all social media. I believe Twitter, it's Uncanny Occasion. So just missing S at the end. But I don't know. We're in flux, right? So we've been pivoting from what the business used to be like. We've been in a rebranding. So things are kind of in flux right now. So this is, you know, spring of 2023, but follow us, reach out, give us feedback, suggestions, and we really look forward to sharing more with you in the next episode. Do you have anything else? Minxie?
No, I'm just happy. I just feel joy. I'm looking forward to this adventure, and I feel like a little hobbit that's ready to go on an adventure with his buddies.
Do we get a second breakfast when we do that?
Oh, I do need to make my second breakfast, because I just fed my daughter her second breakfast through my boobs. So that means that mama's hungry now.
And somehow
TMI.
Well, somehow this podcast has still come back to food already again. And I just
oh my God, I know. We're clearly hungry.
Oh, it's just so interesting. I mean, aside from that, it's so interesting to think about how closely related these two things are.
Oh, yeah.
And how I think
we're going to figure that out. Oh yeah. Cooking shows. We're definitely going to cover like the Great British Baking Show or Bake Off if you're in the UK. That's like
everything with
one
Gordon
of my absolute favorite things. Oh my God, you love Gordon Ramsay. I'm more of a Paul Hollywood dude or dude.
I don't know who that is.
Oh my God, you've got to watch it. Okay, well, we've got a lot to do. We know you guys don't have all day to listen to us babble, but we love you, our
Babble.
audience.
We don't ever babble. We have the most insightful, like meaningful. Come on, self-confidence.
Okay, okay,
Self-confidence.
okay.
Okay, all right. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you guys next time.
Woohoo. All right, bye.
Bye.